All right, well, welcome. This is the Board of Health. It is Tuesday, January 20th at 7:01 p.m. And pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, as amended on March 28th, 2025, this meeting will be conducted by remote means in accordance with applicable law. The meeting being recorded and may be viewed at any other time by visiting the local scene media at Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. Okay. Um, our first order of business is introductions of residents interested in the board's vacant alternative seat.
Okay, I just wanted to let the board know this morning. I was at training all day, so I kind of was catching up with emails this evening, and one of the candidates, I guess we'll call them, Klaus Jensen, wanted me to relay that upon further consideration and reflecting a bit on my bandwidth, I'm going to withdraw my name from consideration for the open seat. I'm in the process of ramping up a new business, and I want to be mindful of that aspect and also making sure that I can provide the full commitment required by the Board of Health. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay,
So with
very
that,
nice.
um, I think the Michael that's on the attendees is probably our other resident, so I'm going to allow them to talk.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me? I'm not sure if I'm visible. Can you see me?
We can
No.
see your name, but we can hear you.
Let me try to dial in one more time. I'll
Okay.
promise to try to be quick. Okay, I'm back. It looks like I'm still invisible. Is that the case? Should I continue or should I keep trying?
I think you should continue. That would be my advice.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll introduce myself. I think I know Melissa. I'm on the open space committee as well. So I put in my resume, I guess, to the talent bank probably a couple of years ago. So I think it's evolved a little bit since then. But I guess a little bit of my background. I've been a resident of Duxbury for just a little over 3 years. I moved down. I have a 5-year-old daughter, just entered kindergarten. I've really been trying to get sort of my hooks into the community a little bit more. Um, I'm a patent attorney by training, and I work with Novartis currently. So I've been there for about 2 years. So my role is really about translating science into, in that case, patents, and working with scientists and sort of translating that information for the purpose of getting patents. But I've always really been interested in sort of communicating science, and I see the Board of Health as maybe an opportunity to communicate scientific principles to the public, and in this case, in furtherance of serving the purposes of the community. So that's really why I'm here.
So what interests you in particularly in the Board of Health? I know you just gave a sentence or two about that, but why the Board of Health?
So I've seen uh, really trust in public health deteriorate largely during COVID. I really don't like to see that. I'm a little bit concerned about, the education that the kids are getting, and I like to, be part of translating again, scientific principles, facts, and evidence into really practical, bits of communication that really guides the community and builds trust in the community. I think that's really important.
Okay, thank you. Melissa or Mike, do you have a question or a thought?
Yeah, I was going to ask Michael if he wants some, we can talk about what some of our more routine duties and I don't know, some of the things that have come up over the past few years. I don't know if that's helpful for Michael to hear about.
I think that would be useful. I get nuggets from you sometimes, Melissa.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
working with it.
So
That would be
yeah,
useful.
full disclosure, part of the Open Space Committee meeting agenda is reports from other committees. So Michael hears the full data dump from Board of Health, but
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of PFAS talk and general, safety. So, I know that there's always updates on that. I think, taking that as an example, there's a lot of interaction with regulatory authorities, whether it's EPA. That is something, my professional position is sort of adjacent to regulatory issues. We have to think a lot about, guidance of the FDA, and especially these days, the administration changes. I'd really, be eager to take some of that, apply it, in my own community.
yeah, I just add that things that are routine for our agenda are septic system variances. Those, if there's any so Title V related work for the state, if there's a system that needs some sort of variance that because they can't meet what's required by the town of Duxbury and the state, then that's something that comes before us. So plan review for those systems. One of the discussions that's recently come up that's kind of related to that is nitrogen loading to the environment from septic systems. There's a new rules on the Cape in that a lot of all systems. Lauren, maybe you can correct me, but it might be some subset of systems need to have nitrogen removal. And given the sensitivity of Duxbury Bay, that may be something in our future, according to the state. So that's kind of routine. We get updates from the health agent, and variety of community related public health issues that come up. That's what comes to mind from my end. I don't know.
Yeah, we've had some condemned houses most recently. I think that's something that's not usual. We had a mercury spill, which is unusual, from an artifact that somebody had at their house. Today we're talking about e-bikes with Mary Lambert, so we'll be talking about that's something a new topic as well. And sometimes there's some legal cases as well that we go into executive session for, that we're working through the town legal system. I think, Melissa, you summed it up. Mike, do you have anything that you want to add?
I would just say, viewing community feedback and people who come to the board as, input, and kind of taking that public input, you know, at face value and kind of neutrally from the start is kind of important. Just kind of having an unbiased approach to a topic, having an open mind, and trying to make the best decision for the community is kind of my mindset, I'd say. And knowing that we are a coastal community, how that factors into certain, regulations that we look to put in place and look to continue. That sounds interesting to you. Yeah, I think it'd be a good place for you.
Yeah, do they kind of get contentious here and there? I can imagine a lot of people have, a great deal invested in a lot of these topics. So do they come join these meetings virtually in person?
Yeah, we've had a few over the years. I've been on the board for roughly 10 years. And not too often, but every once in a while there's a topic that comes up that somebody has a strong opinion on, and they send some emails, and
Yeah.
it's kind of our job to review them and just take a look and see what they have to say. But yeah, I guess just keeping kind of a open mind of where people are coming from is, I guess, best practice in my mind, and just having the public health really kind of trumps everything, whether it's convenient for a particular private homeowner, developer, could kind of go against your initial past experience with a similar project or what have you. But it's more of like case by case basis that we look at complaints and try and make a decision for the best public interest, I'd say. But yeah, Lauren has been a great health agent, and relying on her kind of as a subject matter expert on a lot of topics that come up, the things she reviews day to day that we don't necessarily have to vote on. Not everything is coming in front of us to make a final decision. It's just we used to have a regulation that construction and fill was not allowed for septic systems on new developments. And it came to us later on that, when we implemented that regulation way back when, before my time, it wasn't properly posted for public to attend that meeting. So we had to kind of reverse, but we also, that comes in front of the board, any project with construction and fill. That's something that we review as a board. That's just one example, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. So I guess so you mentioned not all topics are really for the board to decide on. So I guess I'd be curious to learn more about the governance structure then. Does the board defer to whom?
So Lauren
To
is a health agent. She's on here now. And, she handles, a lot of the day-to-day, witnessing test pits for septic design and infiltration systems that are tied to construction projects. And then, the restaurant and, those types of requirements. I mean, you could probably chime in, Lauren, kind of, she's got to wear as many hats, I'd say. So we're just here to support her as well.
I see.
Typical day-to-day, reviewing septic upgrades or repairs and their plans for compliance. I'll review building permits, that to make sure that they're in compliance. We have a supplemental rule in town, the Board of Health does, where any addition over 50 square feet requires a Title V inspection report, and a lot of people don't know that. So that's always fun to put a project on hold. But it's for, it's for public health.
So who implements that then if you become aware of a non-compliant building project?
So
You send a notice or
we have permitting software in town, and so pretty much all building permits, with the exception of maybe interior work, if anyone's adding a bedroom or if they're adding square footage, it'll go down the line. So the zoning enforcement reviews it, Board of Health reviews it, or me, and the conservation administrator. We review all of that on a daily basis. Just, and if someone's putting up a shed, for example, I'm just reviewing it to make sure they're not putting it on any septic components, which they usually
Okay.
aren't, and then I can say, okay, fine with Board of Health. Or if I see something, I have a building permit that's in now for an in-ground pool, and that does require Title V inspection. So I'll put that on hold until they have that Title V completed. And I'll usually work with them if they have the inspector call me and say, we finished this report, but they have 30 days to submit it to the Board of Health. I'll usually let it go, knowing that there's a passing Title V coming.
I see.
But things like that. Restaurant inspections. This week I'm inspecting all the school kitchens. We do restaurant inspections every 6 months based off of risk factor. So the high risk places are like the nursing home, the village at Duxbury, anything that has like high susceptible population. We'll do those, or I'll do those 4 times a year just for compliance. But typically most of our restaurants are twice a year. And then just following up on complaints, we've had a ton of housing as of late. So working through those, working through orders to correct, inspections, sort of the day-to-day. We'll get a lot of requests for septic files for people that are either pumping or inspecting a system, or there's a failure and they want to work on that. So kind of it varies. And we also have a public health nurse, Kathy Carney, and she is totally remote, part-time, and she monitors Maven for us, which is the Massachusetts, I'm not going to get this right, but it has to do with epidemiology. And so she'll monitor that for communicable disease and then do follow-up calls with those people. So it's a lot of different aspects to public health, but always busy.
Does she come to these meetings, or how does she interact with the board?
Not typically. She typically will send me her report for the last 30 days,
Okay.
which I think we usually meet on Thursday, the third Thursday of the month. So I think that she missed it this week, so I don't have that. But typically, or if I'll get a call from an area town that will say we had a Vibrio case come in, the person lives in Duxbury, you know, and I will just send that information to our nurse and she will follow up. I sort of stay out of that. But she, this summer we had Vibrio outbreak, which is from raw oysters. So she was pretty busy with that, following up with those cases and speaking with those patients, trying to pinpoint when and where and how they were sick. So that's it.
See. Thank you.
Sure.
So in terms of time commitment, we have one meeting per month. Sometimes we have urgent meetings that we need to attend, and then of course reviewing the materials prior to the meeting, and then Lauren does send some materials out during the month for us to review as well.
Okay. So that there's some time obviously offline reviewing reviewing materials and preparing, and then
Yeah, so as you can imagine, I would advise people to read and become prepared to the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we get things at the last minute, not Lauren's fault, but things come across her desk that she needs to share with us, and she gets that out as soon as possible.
Okay. Well, I've taken 20 minutes of your time. I don't know how. I appreciate everybody walking me through. Certainly sounds, like an interesting opportunity. So I don't know if you want me to dial off or stick around, or it's up to you. Or if you have any more questions, I'm happy to stay on.
I don't have any more questions.
So I believe our next step is that the board makes a recommendation to the select board.
Yes.
And should they recommend you for the Board of Health, then the select board might want to meet you. You know, that could be virtual too. They're hybrid. And then they would appoint. So we're an appointed board, not elected. So that's the difference here. That's why the select board is involved.
Okay.
And in terms of, so we are meeting virtually now, and we do have Governor Healy signed into regulation or executive order that we can continue, we could choose to meet in person as well, continue to meet this way through June of 2027, unless anything changes by executive order by our governor.
So Zoom would be the default until, okay.
Yeah, that seems to be, we tried a couple times in person, Lauren and I would come together, and there was less of an appetite for it.
Okay, well, if I happen to be appointed, I'll make sure to sort out my video for the Zoom. So you can see what I look like.
We like to see people, but things happen with technology for sure.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, if you have any other further questions, feel free to reach out to Lauren, or you can reach out to me. I'm sure Melissa could answer questions as well, because I know that you're in both of you on our same board. So we thank you very much for your time and your interest today.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. It was nice talking to you and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to dial out. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Do we want to think about a recommendation now, or shall we save that to the end of the meeting? I'm feeling positive.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I've enjoyed working with him on the other committee. I think he's an asset. And
Mhm. Okay. And Mike and Lauren, how do you feel?
Yeah, that sounds like a good candidate to me.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's helpful just to have that alternate seat filled, just in case we can't make a quorum. It's important to have that, I think. So I think
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Lauren, you're okay with making letting folks the select board liaison know that we are Brian Glennon, that we are recommending Mike McHugh. Okay.
Yes. And I'll let you know once that's on an agenda coming up with the select board.
Okay. Great. All right. If everyone's okay, we can move to our next topic, which is continued discussion with the Duxbury Safe Water Committee regarding concerns to the town's public water supply.
So Becky let me know that she had a conflict this evening. They meet, the Safe Water Committee actually meets tonight. So I
Mhm.
anticipate an update for our next meeting, and she'll reach out with that.
Okay, great. Great. Moving on to our third topic, which is e-bikes, community safety concern, and a discussion on future actions for Duxbury.
Hi there. Excuse my voice, but I have been hit with a flu and it seems to like me and it hasn't left in a month. So, excuse my voice. This is terrible. I live on Washington Street and spend, time walking down the street, a couple of blocks to Shipyard Lane with regularity. And I've seen what look like to me, kids my grandson's age, fourth grader, fifth graders, sixth graders, having a whale of a time, but going rather quickly on their e-bikes and like kids, sometimes three abreast, sometimes going up on an embankment right after Jocelyn Street, doing a wheelie and coming down, and I thought, call me a grouchy grandma, but this does not look like a good idea. And spoke to my son who lives here in town. I said, if you get that kid an e-bike, you're off the inheritance list, period, amen. And so we said, oh, you know, there you go again. And I said, wait a minute. A kid was killed in Stoneham, and that resulted in the Globe with an editorial lamenting the fact that, wait a minute, we do not have real regulations in the state. And then there was an op-ed by pediatric at Mass General saying, wait a minute, these things have to be regulated. We need what is an e-bike anyway? They're divided into 3 classes. One, you just have to pedal and then you get an assisted boost to 20 miles an hour. Class 2 can just go with a throttle. You don't have to be pedaling up to 20 miles an hour. Class 3 is a pedal assist, and if pedaling stops, you can't go over 28 miles an hour. However, all can be modified, so up to 50 miles an hour. You know, which is a scary thought. Regulations vary town by town. Most towns don't have any. And the doctor of Mass General in the op-ed suggested, wait a minute, we need minimum age requirements. Kids who are 10 to 13 that account for 44% of the accidents, should they really be driving these things down state roads? Or should we have a minimum age requirement that children under 16 shouldn't operate them, period? Should there be mandatory helmet laws? That sort of makes sense. And I noticed not only for the driver of the e-bike, but also for the passenger. That was another thing I noticed, that the driver who's riding the bike would have a helmet on, but the buddy said, give me a ride, didn't have a helmet on. You wouldn't expect that, you'd expect that to be the case. Also, there should be licensing and training. And there should be speed restrictions and road restrictions. Can they ride these at the Brothers parking lot? Can they ride these on playgrounds? Can they ride them around Brown Pond or East Street bogs where there are paths that people are walking? Or should they be restricted from that? Should there be manufacturers' accountability? The state has very few requirements. There are pending bills, but that's about it. As far as the state goes, there's a helmet law for only the class 3 e-bikes. Age restrictions are that riders under 16 cannot operate the class 3, but they can the 1 and the 2. As far as where you can ride, it just depends whether there's a restriction in a town. Pending legislation so far hasn't gone anywhere. In our neighboring town of Plymouth, they had a full-blown article with proposed rules. Registration was required, mandatory registration with the Plymouth Police Department requiring a visible sticker. And at that time, it would allow the police department to give a little instruction of what the rules of the road are before they could get their decal, or with a decal on the back, like a license plate, if you see someone's doing something particularly foolish, then you'd be able to get some accountability. As far as age, Plymouth came up with you had to be 16 and a half to operate these e-bikes, or if you had a driver's license, you could operate. As far as helmets, they were required not only for the drivers, but the passengers. They had restrictions on where you could ride them. That you couldn't ride them on paths like you have at East Street Fogs or what have you. You couldn't ride them on the beach. You couldn't ride them on any nature trails. And it was necessary, there were speed limits, like if you're near pedestrians, you have to give a bell or a horn and slow down. And then there were safety rules, etc. And so the question, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending where you were coming from, the Board of Selectmen had a hearing, and those opposed voices outweighed those in favor. And so there you have it. But the question here is, where should Duxbury go? If you're going to be negative, a grouchy grandma, are you going to say, well, wait till somebody's really hurt, and then we can, fix the door before the horses leave? Or we could be proactive and start off by perhaps having either the Board of Health, the police department, emergency management, those, quote, responsible agencies say, well, why don't we have a hearing where this can be discussed to the town? What's the issue? What are the potential problems? Let's hear from you what your objections. There are obviously going to be those who object, who are libertarians, for example. Those who will object would be parents having multiple children. I know I had 10 years apart between our kids, and cripes, I have to wake up the baby, or I have to grab the little kid from a playgroup so I could drive the older one to Duxbury Bay Marine School, or to baseball, or to what have you, or to what have you. But you have an e-bike, go for it. Then that makes it easier as a parent with multiple children of various ages. I can understand that. Or you've already bought one. And I looked on Amazon, and for an e-bike, it can go anywhere from 350 to 850, and their speed range from 20 miles an hour max to 37 miles an hour max. And then we get into another issue, e-skateboards, which to me is sort of a frightening thing, because they can go up to 32 miles an hour. They fit a gray area that they have not been addressed locally, not addressed state. They're just sort of out there. To my mind, they are essentially the same. And I would think it would make sense in a discussion to educate the town, to get the feel of the town of, what do you think? Is there any difference? Is the trauma going to be any different for the kid? Or what? And so that's why I brought the issue to the board. I also sent the same packet of material, including the op-eds from the Globe, the Plymouth article, and the state law, and the state proposed law bill, and to the police department, to Duxbury Emergency Management, and the Select Board. I know at this time in history, with budget being the main deal, that it would be something probably addressed after town meeting. But I think it would be appropriate some way to address it before spring, before summer, before potentially an accident that everyone would feel badly about. And before, if there's a special town meeting, if it ever got to the point of an article. So, any questions? To the grouchy grandma.
What would you like to see have happen? What would you like to see?
What I'd like to see is the town to come up with something very much as Plymouth had. Their article, I think, their article was very comprehensive. I sent it to Lauren,
Mhm.
and that's certainly something to look at, to tweak, etc., depending what the input is for the community. No, I do not want to see my 9-year-old grandson on one of these things. I think my son and his wife have the brains not to buy one, but I can see him saying to his friend, "Oh, give me a ride." Of course. And what's the kid gonna do? Be a jerk? Of course I'll give him a ride.
Yes.
Will
Mary,
it happen? I don't know whether something will happen. I've talked to a few people my age, and one was on Onion Hill and said, "Jesus, they're flying all over here." Another woman actually stopped her car on Washington Street right after Shipyard. She said, "Did you see that? This is terrible." She was another person my age. And I said, we can't talk on the street like this. You're in your car, I'm walking in the street. But I don't know. To my mind, common sense, when I read the pediatric report and other doctors from Mass General, when I read the editorial, when I read about the case in Marin County in California, I thought, well, there's really something. There should be some regulations there, requirements. I mean, our street, Washington Street, is a freaking nightmare. I have another son who lives on Beacon Hill, and when he would come to visit, we're only a block from Shipyard, he would not take the stroller for his little kids to go to Shipyard. He would drive them to Shipyard. He said, I don't, it's safe to move your kids in a stroller on Beacon Hill, but it sure isn't safe here. The road's too narrow. There are too many trucks, too many supersized SUVs with the driver on a phone. It's just not safe. And it sure in the hell isn't safe abreast for 2, 10, 11, and 12-year-old kids on e-bikes or skateboards going 20, 28 miles an hour, in my humble opinion.
Well, according to Massachusetts law, they shouldn't be going 28 miles an hour. It's 20 to 25, depending on what type of a bike.
No, wait a minute. On class 3, pedal assist, 28 miles.
Okay. I'm looking at a different chart than yours right now on my screen. I'll believe you. So what do you all think? What do you think our next steps might be, Melissa and Mike and Lauren? Thoughts?
I mean, there's
Well-
already through the environmental police, there's off-highway vehicle safety laws, which basically refer to recreational vehicles or off-highway vehicles, including all terrain vehicles, off-highway motorcycles, dirt bikes, and recreational utility vehicles.
But these are not in that classification.
They aren't able to be classified as recreation utility vehicles? Because there's age restrictions by particular age kind of clearly laid out in prohibited operation, safety equipment requirements, registration. Um, basically saying recreational vehicles operated on public or private property must be registered through the state environmental police, except if used exclusively for agricultural, forestry, lumbering, or construction purposes. I don't know if you've seen this, Mary, online, summary of off-highway vehicle safety laws in the state, but my only thought would be to classify e-bikes into recreational vehicles for the purpose of safety in town. Because it seems to have pretty thorough, age requirements for persons under 10 years, between 10 and 14, between 14 and 16, and then under the age of 16 and a half. So that may be more palatable, I'd say, just looking at those already in place. I wouldn't call them regulations, but, kind of summary of the recreation vehicle laws.
And one of the recreation vehicle laws are designed for what? For recreation areas or what?
No, it basically says, I can read through the definitions, but recreation vehicle or off-highway vehicle is any motor vehicle designed or modified for use over unimproved terrain or for recreation or pleasure while not on a public way. This includes all terrain.
Not on a public way.
I think that's where
Yeah,
we may run into trouble.
Yeah,
It looks, just looking at some of these things, I think, once again, there's three levels of the bikes, right? It's sidewalks are issues, certain paths are issues. We could do some extra ordinances here as well, but it looks like bike paths and streets are okay. That's what I'm reading. And if you're under 16, you better be wearing a helmet.
But that's kind of the only criteria for under 16s, right?
Yeah.
It's just a helmet. I based on personal experience last spring through summer and fall, I do agree with Mary that I think there's potential for children to really get hurt. I've seen them on Route 14, all over town, very young kids who couldn't possibly know how to safely operate something going that fast on a public way. And it's really concerning. I worry, and a lot of them are, there's the motorized skateboards as well. Half of them are not wearing helmets. Right now I saw what we have in our folder from the police department, and I know the school has also sent out notices to try to advise parents. But if we're still seeing this at the level and frequency, and I totally understand, parents choosing this because kids want to get around town on their own, and that makes sense. It's a healthy thing, but at this speed, it's just so dangerous. That's my personal opinion. I'd be interested to have some more enforceable guidance on
Yes.
operation of these things.
Yeah. What can we do? What should we do? Be interested to hear what Brian Glennon has to say from the select board, if there's any opinion from Brian.
Yeah.
that's a good
I do
idea.
have,
Do you think it would be a good idea to, me personally, I think it would be more effective, you talking to your liaison, but going to open forum and asking the select board whether they'd be interested in working with the other pertinent departments and getting a meeting together at the senior center or what have you, to start getting this out and moving to some sort of consensus.
So
What do you think?
do we see as our next step is in connecting with Brian Glennon as our next step?
Sure. I just wanted to add, I have been in contact with Chief Carbone with Duxbury Police. And I sent him Mary's materials. And he apologized he wasn't able to join the meeting tonight. But he said the statement and flyer that they released reflect their stance on e-bikes. While there are laws in place, the challenge is ensuring parents are aware of them and can regulate their child's use of an e-bike. So there are challenges that are there, but I let him know that I would follow up with how this meeting went and what our next steps would be. So
Yeah, as we engage Brian Glennon, is there, I don't know, education from the public school systems? Can we do more with that? Can the grant, the grant that you're working with, would they have bandwidth to help us with something like that? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
yeah, actually that the PHE, the Public Health Excellence Grant Collaborative, epidemiologist Devin that you've met before helped Plymouth with their presentation for their e-bike. And she looked up some statistics there. So I sort of mentioned it to her in passing maybe a month or two ago. So I think she would definitely be a good source to help us with that as well.
Yeah, I think that's, or we could have a board of health and let other folks know that if that epidemiologist could do a presentation for us and connect with Brian Glennon, so two-pronged approach.
I wouldn't mind connecting with conservation as well. I've never heard of issues on any of our trails, but it might be something to include them in as well, as they're the ones that maintain all of the towns. Then there's a huge liability piece there. I mean, I get
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a place to get hurt, or those bumpy trails for sure.
And as far as trails go, having many Labrador retrievers are my best friends are at East Street Pogs and Brown Pond, other dog walking people. And occasionally you get a biker, and they're very polite. I'm coming on your left, they slow down, etc. Having 10-year-olds on e-bikes or class 3 would really impact the ambiance of a place like that with dogs off leash, with older people, with people pushing baby carriages. The two don't go together. And I know the bill that is before the Transportation Committee now and does not seem to be going anywhere, does say that there's a problem if each town has their regulation on open space as opposed to the state, because one town's trails lead to another trail. I'm not sure I buy that.
Okay.
But I would also include Duxbury Emergency Management, because they're the ones who pick up the pieces. If something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's not untrue.
They come and take you to Jordan or South. Yeah. I know that. And so I think they have an oar in the game.
Right. Are people comfortable with just the risk of being repetitive, circling back to Brian Glennon, and then have Lauren outreach to the grant epidemiologist to see if there's something they can do for us here?
That sounds good to me.
sounds good to me. The conversation's going and moving forward, and you hope for the best. The worst that can happen is that more parents might say no.
Yeah,
Think
that's
about
true.
it. That's the worst that can happen. The
Yeah.
best can happen, maybe we can get sensible regulations that people can deal with, and it'll prevent something happening. Having had a spinal cord injury and being paralyzed at one point, thank God for Mass General, I'm back together again. But those are things that can happen to these kids.
True.
And of
Yep,
course, they haven't got a clue.
it's true. Lauren, let's put this on the agenda, make sure it's on the agenda for next month as well.
Sure.
It might be cured from the flu, but
Well, we hope so.
it's ridiculous. Okay,
All
look,
right.
appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Anything I come up with, I'll send to Lauren. And there we go. This is terrific. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you for your time and thank you for your research and raising the issue. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Mary.
Feel better.
Mm.
Okay, bye.
You can stay if you'd like.
And that granny gown is getting a lot of use. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh, our next item are health agent updates.
Okay, just update on condemnations. We still have one that's still open, working through their order to correct. It's taken quite some time, but I have not been called back for reinspection as of yet. I don't have the nurse stats. I don't know if Kathy, she might be away, but either way, I'll get them. I'm sure there's tons of flu and COVID. I'm hearing that mono is kind of running around. So, yeah,
Well, there's definitely a surge in the flu for sure.
yes. But I'll get those numbers. Either I'll
Mhm.
combine them for our next meeting, or I can send, I can ask her for ours and, send them out to the board members. Boarding task force. I'm trying to get some resources together and create a team with fire, someone from fire, someone from police, someone from the center, formerly senior center. Just, I had an email today from them that they have another resident in town has a hoarding issue, and they're elderly and there's a fall issue there. So, I think the first step is for them to go to the state,
Mhm.
so that I don't, I'm really conscious about going out to a property and having to condemn it, and then where do these people go? And that's a big issue, especially when they don't have the resources in place. So I'm hopeful that the state agencies, if they consider it elder abuse, so to speak, when they can't care for themselves, can sort of implement some help that way to get their house in order. And I'm here in the background when needed, but I really yeah, I don't really want to have to go out to a house and condemn it, like I said, and remove them from the property. And speaking of which, I'm in the tier 3 phase of the housing. I guess they call it mass fit public health inspector training. There's three tiers. One was all online. The second was in person last year. And now this is in person again, but it's dialed down to just 4 of us with our hub trainer. And it's for it was last Tuesday, today, and then the next 2 Tuesdays. And it's really great. We're going through mock inspections, writing up inspection reports, orders to correct. We'll be working on condemnations next. So, and this is the person, our hub trainer is Paul Hoffman. He worked for DPH for decades. So he's an amazing resource. And I typically will call him with questions when I have them. So now we're on a face-to-face basis. It's it's been really good. So
Well, I certainly like the team approach for this particular issue. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think connecting with state resources makes a lot of sense. Training obviously makes a lot of sense. All that's great. I think, what do we have? 3 or 4 cases in the last maybe 8 months?
I've
Is that correct?
since July 1st, when I officially became the agent, I have condemned 3 houses,
Okay.
um, which is pretty much, I still speak with Tracy quite a bit. And she said 19 years, I think she did, maybe 2.
Yeah,
So
well, it's a lot. It's a
it's
lot.
a lot. We're also a town that has a ton of, like a large elderly population, um, and, mental health post COVID is, you know,
Yeah.
it's a huge
Yes.
issue. So trying to get things in place for people, resources, things that, I just want to create something, some sort of group where we can all stay on the same page. Or we know this person, there's an issue here, we're keeping an eye on it, the state's currently involved.
Mhm.
And then we go from there. Is I think that it will benefit everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just been crazy busy. So I haven't not done it. I'm just still trying to gather all of
Yeah.
that. And the center are actively working on filling their, I forget what they call the position, but it's sort of like a, I don't want to say a social worker, but someone in a role that would work with these cases
Yeah.
directly with the state.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that
so
makes sense. A
yeah,
caseworker.
yeah, caseworker. That's a good appropriate. So
Okay.
that's really it for me, I guess.
Well, that's cool. Quite a robust list there for sure. Um, so before we approve the minutes, I think we probably should have done this a while ago, so I apologize for that. But if we want to reorganize the board, if we want to look for another chairperson, vice chairperson, should we keep things the way that it's at? What do you, and unfortunately, we don't have Bruce, we don't have Dr. Brumley, but what are you all thinking about that? You won't hurt my feelings, so just speak freely.
Is there any driver here? Like, are we looking to do this, or is it just feedback? Like,
Yeah, if someone would like to take over, that's fine. If you want me to continue, that's okay too. If you want to do it yourself, let me know. I'll vote for you. I'm kidding. No, maybe I'm not kidding. Um, are you satisfied the way things are? Do you want to change things up? Just an honest, open conversation.
You're doing a fine job, Karen. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I thought it being on the agenda was kind of prelude you basically wanting to change your role, but I'm glad you're saying that that's not the case necessarily. And if you're content continuing in that role, I'm surely supportive of you and the chairperson role.
Okay.
That's my opinion. And if anyone else, I mean, not to step on anyone else's toes, if they're looking to kind of relieve you or
I don't feel overburdened. That's not the reason for saying this. It's just fairness, right? I like to consider myself a fair person and an open person. I like to consider myself that. And usually, when Dave had done this, or Dr. Brumley had done this, we would have these conversations periodically, and I've not been remiss in not having these conversations periodically. So that is the purpose.
well, I think for the reason you just said that you strive to be a fair person. That's the reason I'd like to have you stay on this role because I think you do a really fine job of that. So, and always taking the Board of Health members asking for our opinion and whatnot. So yeah, no concerns from my end.
Okay. All right. Lauren, are you okay? I'm happy to continue if you're okay.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, that's it. And I think, I can connect with Dr. Brumley to see if he still wants to be vice chairman. And I'm assuming that if he wants to continue, that you both are okay with that as well.
Yes,
Okay.
I would.
Okay. That was it. All right, cross that off the list. On to on to like a list of minutes, right? Did we use the chat box today, Lauren, for our minutes? Did we use the GPT?
I used Claude AI.
Oh, good. Good,
And
good.
you definitely still have to obviously
You have to edit them, yes.
make the edits, watch the votes, spelling names and whatnot, but it definitely formats it a lot
Mhm.
faster. There was a
Mhm.
backlog. So I feel that was a huge weight lifted off my shoulders to be caught up right in time for a FOIA. So it was Freedom of Information Act request. So
There you go. Well, good news. Good news that we're able to do that. That you're right, it does relieve you. Do you want to, if everyone's okay, if you looked at the minutes, if you just want to call out the minutes and we can, indicate that we're satisfied with how they're presented, does that sound okay?
Yes.
sure. Do you want me to read each date or
Yeah, read the date
okay.
and we can decide
Sure.
if we're satisfied.
Of course they're not in alphabetical order, but I'm trying to
Okay.
okay, so January 18th, 2024.
Okay, I vote to approve.
I'll second that.
Then we have, I'm just going to go down the list. They're not going to be in order.
That's okay.
September 19th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
October 17th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
May 16th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
March 12th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
June 20th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
July 18th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
Mike, I'm
December
assuming everything's okay with you. I don't hear a peep, right? I could say we're unanimous, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Go ahead, Lauren.
December 4th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
August 15th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
And April 24th, 2024.
Approve.
Second.
And then we're going to go to 2025. September 18th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
October 16th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
November 20th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
March 20th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
June 12th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
July 15th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
July 9, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
February 25th, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
December 18, 2025.
Approve.
Second.
And the last is August 14th, 2025.
Approve.
And second that.
All right, so I will stamp all of those in with the town clerk tomorrow and upload those to the website.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So our next meeting is February 19th. And thank you all for changing the dates. I appreciate that you were able to accommodate my schedule. So I appreciate that. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thanks everyone for your time and attention and have a good rest of the evening.